This is Malapine. Welcome to an edition of the From the Pure Land podcast. This one will be a guided meditation on the four thoughts. They've been called the Supreme Contemplation, or the four thoughts that turn the mind. You know, when I launched From the Pure Land as a blog about 6 months ago, I was comfortable writing. I had a long history as a nonfiction writer. And I also had enjoyed public speaking, but I had mild cognitive impairment that resulted in too many pauses, slow speech, gaps when I'm grasping for the right word to say, and sometimes I would say the word that came out would not be the one that I intended. Interestingly, as it turned out, the more I exercised my neuronic, my writing neurons, or the writing neuronic connections, the more the speaking connections improve. So I still have times when I speak slowly and make mistakes, but a while back I felt ready to start podcasting, and it's easy to add that to the Substack blogging. So I record and release some of the From the Pure Land blog posts as podcasts as well. My goal in all of this is to spread the teachings and practices that have helped me live in a pure land of joy and compassion. It took me 78 years to get here, and I wanted to share that. The podcasts help me reach more people. They've now been listened to in 36 countries, and we're approaching our first 1,000 downloads. What's especially exciting about the podcasting is the opportunity to include some meditations. As I've said, the path in Buddhism can't be described entirely in words. It requires other experiential practices, including meditation. So this edition is aimed at listeners as a guided meditation on what has been called the Supreme Contemplation, four thoughts that turn the mind away from worldly concerns and toward spiritual practices. In other words, away from suffering and toward peace and loving equanimity. It's all an important, or the four thoughts are an important component of Tibetan Buddhism, and they're also a key part of my own daily practice. I do these every day, and they have been enormously helpful in my reaching that state of pure land of joy. And there's a fuller discussion of the four thoughts I posted a link on the website with in the podcast. I'm sorry, I posted a link in the blog, from the Substack blog, to a teaching by Alexander Berzin and an article called The Supreme Contemplation by Andrew Holacek in the winter 2013 edition of Tricycle. And you can, if you want to find those, you can go to melpine, melpine.substack.com. The four thoughts are the preciousness of human life, impermanence and death, karma, or the way causes and conditions always have a result. And the fourth, the way our minds create so much of our suffering. So find a comfortable spot for meditation. I'll give you a moment to find a place where you don't expect to be disturbed, a place that's relatively quiet. You can sit on a chair, on the floor, any position really that you're comfortable in, as long as your back's kind of straightish, relatively straight. And breath can come in and come and go easily. I'll ring the bell 3 times at the beginning of the meditation and 3 times at the end. As the sound of the bell fades, first thing I'd like you to do is relax. You might scan your body for areas that are tense and soften them. You might take a few breaths, relaxing a bit deeper with each one. And you might kind of breathe in through your nose and breathe out with a ah through your mouth. Breathe in, out. Each time you breathe, you relax a little bit more. Let's try one more. Now we're going to find our awareness, a state of being aware of our bodies, what's going on around us, what's going on in our minds, but just aware, not attaching to any of it, not fleeing from any of it. A good place to start is with the breath. Awareness of the breath in, awareness of the breath out. And just try to make that state of awareness your home for the next few minutes. You're going to hear through that state of awareness. The first thought that turns the mind is the preciousness of human life, the preciousness of having been born a human. Being human gives you a certain amount of freedom, some advantages over other life forms. Buddhists consider it very fortunate. You've got the reasoning power, the conceptual power, and the non-conceptual power to reach enlightenment. And part of the practice I use daily has this phrase: seeing its many wonderful qualities, I rejoice and delight in this human life. Take a moment to rejoice and delight that you have the opportunity to live this life. For me, when I do this contemplation daily, I always start by looking out my window at the tree across the street and just how joyful it is for me to be able to see and appreciate everything that tree represents. For you, it might be something else. The second noble truth is impermanence. It's certainly related to the first. Life is so precious because we know it is impermanent, and everything we can see, hear, touch, smell, taste is also impermanent. That tree across the street will someday die. And that makes enjoying it, loving it, living with it, having it part of my daily life so much richer. And we know that each of us will die as well. So we might as well do the best we can with this life. Practice whatever spiritual path we're on, to be diligent about it. And we know that because of impermanence, our life is a little bit like being in an ocean with waves. Things will come, things will go. The joy, I recognize a kind of inner joy, but let's say the fleeting joy, the kind of joy you feel when your team wins the championship, or when your child wins a musical competition. That kind of joy is fine, is great, but we know that it won't last. And the pain that we feel upon the death of a loved one, the death of a pet, illness, that won't last either. Again, quoting the practice I use, which was a liturgy written by Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche, a liturgy called Nectar of the Path. I love the way he introduces the contemplation on impermanence. Like waves in the ocean, all things are impermanent. I will accept whatever happens and make it my friend. So whatever comes our way is also going to be our friend and teacher. Now, the word you may know for the third noble truth is karma. But let's take a look at that word. It's sometimes misused in Western colloquial speech. Because karma is just the way everything is the result of causes and conditions. And causes and conditions will always have a result. So as we live this precious human life in the awareness of impermanence and death, we want to do and think and say the things that have the kind of result that we hope for. We know some result is sure to follow. So we want to do our best to engage in positive deeds. reflecting on this daily has helped me pay attention to the way I treat the cashier in the supermarket, the other customers pushing their carts, just the way I go about my life. Everything I do as a result. And sometimes we don't see it. That smile we give someone today may have a bigger impact than we can imagine. The fourth thought that turns the mind is about the way our minds create so much of our suffering. This is what we Buddhists call samsara, that because of the way we see the world, we trap ourselves in a cycle of happiness, joy, suffering, happiness, suffering, relief from suffering, more suffering, and so on. This is perhaps the hardest one to overcome. It takes really getting to know the nature of one's mind, making friends with one's mind, I call it. So that your mind doesn't hang you up on how much better chocolate is than vanilla, or how that new car is going to change your life, or the promotion. Or how horrible that other thing is going to be if it happens. We know that there will be pain in life, losses, illnesses, deaths. injuries, failures, disappointments. But we don't want to add a second arrow to the first arrow. We don't want to add an arrow of unnecessary suffering to the arrow of pain that might come our way. We're determined to free ourselves from our self-created bonds that produce needless suffering. May you all enjoy your precious human life. May you all come to peace with and understanding of impermanence. May you all resolve to create the conditions that will have good results for you and the world. And may you all free yourselves from unnecessary, mind-imposed suffering.